The person who angers you is not the cause of your anger. My dear, if that statement troubles you, it is because you have been taught from childhood to look at people as causes rather than as effects. I have spent my life proving that no one enters your world by accident. And no one behaves toward you independently of the state you occupy within yourself. This is what I mean when I say that everyone is yourself pushed out. When you understand this, you will no longer struggle with people. You will reposition yourself, and the struggle will end on its own. Let me show you how this law works in practice. The mistake most people make is not that they feel anger, hurt, or resentment. The mistake is that they assign creative power to the person who appeared last in the chain of events. You say, he caused this feeling. You say, she made me react. And by doing so, you unknowingly surrender your position as the operant power in your own world. But I tell you, reaction is never the beginning. Reaction is always the end. By the time emotion rises within you, a state has already been accepted. And the world, faithful as ever, has answered that acceptance to the nearest available instrument. Very often, that instrument is a person. This is why relationships feel so personal. This is why people seem so powerful. This is why the same situations repeat with different faces. You believe you are dealing with individuals. In truth, you are meeting states in motion. Now, let me be very clear, because this is where misunderstanding arises. I am not telling you to excuse behavior. I am not telling you to tolerate what you should not tolerate. I am not telling you to deny your experience. I am telling you where causation actually lives. The outer man reacts. The inner man selects. And until you learn to distinguish between the two, people will continue to appear as problems rather than as indicators. For people do not bring states with them. They draw states out of you. If you are living from a sense of being overlooked, life will find someone to overlook you. If you are living from a sense of being challenged, life will provide challenges. If you are living from a sense of being unappreciated, appreciation will seem always just out of reach. Not because the world is hostile, but because it is obedient. And here is the liberating truth. You are never meant to manage people. You are meant to occupy positions. Change the position, and the relationship must rearrange itself. Sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically, but always lawfully. This is why argument fails. This is why confrontation exhausts. This is why withdrawal without inner change solves nothing. You are wrestling with shadows when the source stands within you. Tonight I want to teach you how to stop reacting to people and begin repositioning yourself deliberately, consciously, and without inner violence. Not so that you may become passive, but so that you may become precise. But when you understand how this law operates in daily life, you will discover that relationships no longer drain you. They instruct you. They reveal where you stand and give you the opportunity to move. My dear, if you will follow me closely, you will see that this law is not mystical at all. It is exact, impersonal, and unfailingly just. Every moment of your life, you are occupying a state. By state, I do not mean a mood that comes and goes, nor do I mean a passing thought. I mean a position of consciousness, a fixed assumption about who you are in relation to the world. You may not be aware of the state you occupy, but you are always living from one. And the state you live from determines the part others must play. Now, this is difficult for many to accept because we are accustomed to thinking of people as independent agents, acting from their own motives and dispositions. We say that is just how he is, or she has always been that way. But I tell you, no one is that way to everyone. The same man who appears harsh to one may be gentle to another. The same woman who appears dismissive to you may be kind and attentive elsewhere. Why? Because people do not act. They are acted through. They are summoned by state. A state is like a stage upon which certain roles must be filled. When you occupy that state, the actors appear automatically. They need not be instructed. They need not be convinced. They arrive already knowing their lines. This is what I mean when I say the world is yourself pushed out. Not that people are puppets to be controlled, but that consciousness arranges encounters with perfect fidelity to what is assumed. Now let me bring this down from abstraction and into daily life. Suppose you quietly, inwardly, assume that you are disregarded, not in words perhaps, but in feeling. You walk through life with the subtle expectation of being overlooked, talked over, or undervalued. You do not announce this assumption. You may not even admit it to yourself. Yet life hears it. And so, without malice, without conspiracy, without intention, someone will interrupt you. Someone will forget you. Someone will fail to acknowledge your contribution. And you will say, there it is again. Yes, there it is again. The state has spoken. But if you change the assumption, not by demanding respect, not by correcting behavior, but by occupying the state of being valued, you will discover something remarkable. The world rearranges its cast. Those who once ignored you will now listen. Those who dismissed you will soften. And those who cannot play the new role will quietly exit the scene. Not because you fought them, but because they could no longer find their place in the new state you occupy. This is the secret that frees you from struggle with people. You do not correct behavior. You withdraw life from the state that requires that behavior. Now you may say, but Neville, what of the one who insults me? What of the one who behaves unjustly? Am I to simply change myself and say nothing? My dear, you misunderstand the nature of power. Reaction is not strength. Compulsion is not authority. Emotional reflex is not action. True action flows from alignment. When you act from a disturbed state, your action prolongs disturbance. When you act from a position of inner authority, your action carries finality. But before action can be effective, the state must be correct. This is why argument exhausts you. This is why confrontations repeat themselves. This is why explanations never seem to last. You are trying to resolve a problem on the level where it did not originate. The origin is always within. Now I want you to observe something carefully. Have you noticed that the people who trouble you most are those with whom you have an inner conversation? You rehearse what you should have said. You anticipate what they will say next. You argue inwardly long after the outer encounter has ended. That inner dialogue is not harm. It is creative. You are sustaining the state that requires the same encounter to repeat. Perhaps tomorrow, perhaps in another form, perhaps to another person altogether. This is why changing people does not work, but changing inner speech always does. For the inner man speaks first, and the outer man echoes. So in this law, there is no enemy. There is only feedback. And feedback, my dear, is not condemnation. It is instruction. Every person who appears to disturb you is showing you where you still stand. Not to shame you, not to trap you, but to invite you to move. And when you move inwardly, when you reposition yourself in consciousness, you will find that the world, through people, responds with astonishing obedience. This is not magic. This is not passivity. This is not denial, it is selection. And until you learn to select your state deliberately, you will believe that life is happening to you. But the moment you see how roles are assigned, you will never again feel at the mercy of another's behavior. You will know exactly where the power resides within you. Let us move now from understanding into use. For a law not applied is merely admired. If you will remember one thing from tonight, let it be this. You do not change relationships by fixing moments. You change them by changing positions. Most people attempt to deal with others at the level of behavior. They wait for a word to be spoken, an action to occur, and then they respond. By that time, the state has already done its work. So let me show you a different way. Suppose you leave an encounter feeling disturbed. Someone has spoken sharply to you. Someone has dismissed you. Someone has behaved in a manner you would not accept. The natural impulse is to replay the scene. You rehearse what you should have said. You imagine what you will say next time. You feel the same emotion again and again. And each time you do this, you are not relieving the state, you are renewing it. The outer encounter may have lasted minutes. The inner conversation may last days. And it is the inner conversation that is created. Now, I am not telling you to suppress feeling. I am telling you to redirect it. The moment you recognize that you are disturbed, you have been given a signal. You are occupying a state that no longer serves you. That is the moment to act inwardly. This is where revision enters. Not as a denial of fact, but as a change of position. You do not revise the other person. You revise yourself in relation to them. You take the scene just ended and you re-enter it quietly in imagination. You do not argue. You do not explain. You simply experience the encounter as it would have been had you been the one you now choose to be. If you wish to be respected, feel the calm authority of respect. If you wish to be valued, feel the ease of being valued. If you wish to be unbothered, feel the stillness of one who cannot be disturbed. You are not pretending, you are selecting. And here is the crucial point most overlooked. You must end the scene in peace, not triumph, not revenge, peace. For peace is the sign that the position has shifted. Now, having revised inwardly, you do something most find difficult. You leave it alone. You do not watch the world for confirmation. You do not wait for an apology. You do not test the other person. You have already moved. And because you have moved, the world must follow. Sometimes the change is immediate. Sometimes it unfolds naturally over time. Sometimes the person never reappears at all. But the Lord never fails. Now let me tell you something that will save you years of effort. You cannot be disturbed by anyone unless you are still living from a concept of yourself that allows disturbance. This is not blame. This is freedom. The unbothered state is not numbness. It is not indifference. It is inner authority. It is the quiet knowing, I am secure in my position. When you assume that position, people do not need to be corrected. They simply respond differently. And those who cannot respond differently cannot remain. This is why some relationships fade without conflict. This is why some arguments resolve without discussion. This is why some people apologize without being asked. Not because you demanded it, but because the state that required resistance no longer exists. Now observe this carefully. If you carry within you the assumption, people always challenge me, life will confirm it endlessly. But if you quietly assume I am met with ease, you will be astonished at how quickly friction disappears. Not because the world has become kinder, but because it has become obedient. This is how you deal with people without strain. You do not manage personality. You do not fight behavior. You do not correct the world. You select who you are being, and the world arranges itself accordingly. My dear, everything I have shared with you tonight leads to one unavoidable conclusion. There is no effective strategy for dealing with people apart from self-concept. You may learn communication techniques. You may rehearse boundaries. You may master persuasion. But if the concept you hold of yourself remains unchanged, the same situations will return, clothed in new circumstances, wearing new faces. For the world does not respond to what you do. It responds to what you are. Self-concept is simply the sum total of what you quietly accept as true of yourself. Not what you declare aloud, not what you hope to become, but what you feel to be natural. If you feel it is natural to be challenged, challenge will follow. If you feel it is natural to be dismissed, dismissal will repeat. If you feel it is natural to struggle, struggle will accompany you. And so I say to you, do not ask how to deal with people. Ask instead, who am I being when I meet them? Now, many misunderstand this and believe self-concept to be something inflated or artificial. They attempt to convince themselves with forceful statements, only to feel inward resistance. That is not the way. Self-concept changes through experience in imagination, not argument. You do not say, I am unbothered, while inwardly rehearsing every offense. You experience yourself as unbothered, and the feeling becomes fact. The unbothered state is not emotional numbness. It is not avoidance. It is not superiority. It is the calm authority of one who knows his position. When you live from that position, you do not need to defend yourself. You do not need to prove your worth. You do not need to demand respect. Respect follows position. Now let me give you something very simple and very effective. Watch your inner conversation. They are the truest indicator of the state you occupy. If you are still explaining yourself inwardly, you are not yet secure. If you are still arguing inwardly, you are still resisting. If you are still anticipating conflict, you are still positioned for it. But when your inner speech becomes quiet, settled, and resolved, the outer world has nothing left to oppose. This is why silence after revision is so powerful. It is not avoidance. It is completion. And from completion flows right relationship. You will find that when self-concept is corrected, people respond without instruction. They listen. They soften. They cooperate. Or they withdraw, all without struggle. And you will marvel at how little effort life requires when you are properly positioned within it. So let me give you a simple practice you may use nightly. Not as discipline, not as effort, but as repositioning. At the end of your day, do not review people. Review your position among them. Ask yourself quietly, from what state did I meet life today? If there was disturbance, do not condemn yourself. Disturbance is not failure. It is information. Choose one moment that lingers in feeling. Re-enter it gently in imagination. But this time, do not change the other person. Change yourself. See yourself calm where you were tense, certain where you were doubtful, unmoved where you were reactive. Feel the ease of that position. Then end the scene in peace. Not relief, not triumph. Peace. That peace is the sign the state has shifted. Fall asleep in that feeling, not hoping for change, knowing you have moved. And because you have moved, the world must answer. You will discover, if you are faithful to this practice, that people no longer dominate your inner world. They no longer occupy your thoughts. They no longer drain you. They simply reflect. And reflections change effortlessly. When the one who stands before them changes position. My dear, you were never meant to fight the world. You were meant to select yourself. When you do this, relationships cease to be battles and become confirmation. Life becomes orderly. Encounters become instructive, and peace becomes natural. This is not withdrawal from the world. It is mastery within it. Remember always, everyone is yourself pushed out, and the power to reposition yourself has been within you all along. Let us all go into silence.